if Mr. Solozzi can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Great, thank you. That brings us to possible action on matters emanating from executive session. Could I have a motion to approve the stipulated agreement regarding student conduct as presented in executive session? We have a motion by Ms. Gallo. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Ms. O'Donnell. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? That motion passes. That brings us to student recognition.
Testing. 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 You're going to hold this. You're going to use that in a moment. Just hold on 1 second. Stand right here in front. Right. Everybody, oh, you get a good look at them. Or you get a good look at them. Much better looking than I am, so I'm going to stand right behind you. So it is my pleasure today to introduce you to Eugene Lawrence Marsh, a third grader at Hopbrook Elementary School. In my hand, I'm holding a press release from the United States Senator for Connecticut, Chris Murphy. It says, Chris Murphy, in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, United States Senator Chris Murphy announced 15 winners of the 7th annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day. 2,000 entries from elementary, middle, and high school students from across Connecticut, reflecting on Dr. King's dream and their own aspirations. The best way to honor Dr. King, said Murphy, is to continue his fight for equality and justice. Every year, I'm blown away and inspired by the thoughtful reflections on Dr. King's legacy from students all across Connecticut. Their hope and determination should remind us all that young people are changing the world. Today, Eugene is going to read his essay for all of you. Close to your mouth.
My name is Eugene. My best friend is Gianni. He is white. I am black. I am allowed to have him as a friend because of Dr. Martin Luther King. One of Dr. King's famous lines from his I Have a Dream speech is that I have a dream that one day little black boys and little black girls will be able to join hands with little white girls and little white boys. This could not happen with Dr. King because law specified that white children were not allowed to play with black children.
Look at the ears.
Dr. King had a white friend just like me. I learned about their friendship in a book my teacher read to us about Dr. King. His friend's dad said that this friendship had to end because one was white and one was black. Martin Luther King started the civil rights movement, which led to these laws changing. These specific laws were called Jim Crow laws. They meant that black people were not allowed to go to the same bathrooms, drink out of the same water fountains, and go to the same schools as white people. Dr. King worked to change these laws, so if Dr. King did not exist, me and Gianni could not be friends. That is how Dr. Martin Luther King changed my life.
Welcome, everyone. We're thrilled to be able to recognize and honor 8 of our students tonight. We are honoring the top 2 fifth graders and sixth graders, both in reading and math, for their growth in our iReady test, which we test in both math and reading. So we're so proud of all the students, but especially these 8 tonight. So first, I'm going to probably embarrass him again because I'm going to say that I embarrassed him, but I already embarrassed him once. He told me today because I gave him an award at school. But I'm going to have LaRon Majette come up for 5th grade math. Yeah, we'll have you guys, I guess, line up. How about we do that? And Natalia Ramirez, also for 5th grade math. For 6th grade math, we have Chloe Branco and Camille Pyers. And then for reading, the 4 students that we're honoring in 5th grade for the most growth in reading, Sophia Nugent and Elizabeth O'Keefe. And then for our 6th grade reading, Athea Barnes and Joe Hooker. And I just have to say that for the growth, they get a targeted, the testing company looks at their test in the fall, they give them a target for the whole year of what they should achieve. These children in front of you, they give them a goal for the whole end of the year. All of these kids exceeded that goal by 300%, and Althea even did it by over 1,000%. So they just blew it out of the park. So I'm so proud of all of you. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'd like to have us all together, okay? So at Cross Street, we had for grade 5, Erica Bennett and Nixie Siratima. Right next to you. For grade 5, oh wait. For grade 4 reading, we have Zoe Ryan and Ava Fiorello. That's Zoe. Yeah. And that's Ava. For grade 6 math, we have Daniel Soares and Ruth Rodriguez. In grade 6 reading, we have Andre Barbosa and Portia McAllister. Don't be shy, Andre. Wait, hang on, Andre. Grab your certificate from Mr. Licky. Mrs. Hunt kind of explained it already, but I just was so very proud, not only of just of these students, but many of the intermediate students this winter made already surpassed their 100% growth. So if they were expected from the fall to the winter, to have X amount of points, many students already surpassed that. So they'll be working on their stretch goals. But this group here was anywhere from 300, 400, 800, 1,000% of their original growth. They're all based on personal learning targets for individual students. So we're really proud of them and all of the intermediate schools this winter. Nice job.
Good job, guys. Good job and congrats, everyone. So that brings us to public comment. If there is anyone from the public that would like to make public comment, please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. And I'll make one last call for public comment. Seeing none, that brings us to the superintendent's report. I will turn over to Superintendent Montini.
Great. It's my pleasure to once again ask Principal Hunt. We all know relationships are important. See, there we go. Yeah. Great. No. Yes. That's what I said. So we tonight will have our intermediate school principals share with you highlight and a focused summary of what's going on there as it relates to their schools and their strategic plan.
Okay. You can hear me? Okay. All right. To the board, thank you for having us tonight. Principal Diedelbaum and myself, we are thrilled to be here to share a little bit with you about our amazing schools. We are very proud of the staff, the students, the families, everyone in the work that we do at our intermediate schools. We're going to share some of those highlights. We're also going to talk to you a little bit about the work that we need to do, because we do realize that although we're proud on so many levels, there are many areas that we do need to continue to work on and to grow and to improve. And that's always what we strive for every day, to improve. So we'll start out.
Hi, so Jonna and I tonight will share a little bit of two different kind of assessments that happen every year in the district. So I have for my school up there our IABs, our interim assessment blocks. They are basically curriculum-based measures. So for example, grade 5 is measurement and data. They completed 2 units in their math program, and then the students take a test, 14 to 15 questions on grade level. And the same thing for grade 5 place value system. So they do a few of their units. They take these tests that the state actually puts out. They're similar questions to what the students would get in the Smarter Balance assessments. So you kind of see there, most of them, we have, some of them, 70% or more of the students are at or near or above standard. We have one in particular that we're going to focus on, grade 6 ratios and proportional reasoning. They're very long units. They're very challenging. It's all new work for grade 6 on rates and ratios and proportions. The only good thing about that is that their next few units were division and division of fractions, so we can incorporate those things back in. And actually, I didn't get to put it on there because we just took it yesterday and today, but we in grade 6 we're taking one on dividing fractions, and they did very well. And I had the scores. I wrote them down. I was so proud. We were down to 18% of the kids were in the below, so we had a ton of kids, and we had a ton of kids in the blue. We had 37% of them, so I was really proud of that. They saw what they needed to do and worked on it, and we got them up.
So the data that we're sharing from Hillside is different than the IAB data. The IAB data, as Tiffany said, is grade level data, and it mimics the Smarter Balance test, so it has some predictive value for us. We can see what the kids do on those tests and kind of gauge where we are. iReady is a different type of a test. This is a test that is going to be testing the students where they are, and the test gets depending on how the children do, the questions, if they continue to get them right, they'll get higher level questions. If they are struggling, they'll get lower level, so they're at the student's level. And so these adaptive tests help us so that we can find out where those kids are, then give them a pathway to get up to grade level. The top 2 charts that we're sharing is iReady in reading and math. And as you saw the students that were up in front of you, we looked at growth, because every child, some kids may be starting pretty far below, and maybe they're not going to get this year all the way up to grade level, but every one of them is going to grow, and we're going to work really hard to get everyone to grow as much as they can. So we look at their typical growth. So based on where they took their test in the fall, they will give us a typical growth that a child at that grade level and at that score, what they should typically score. And 95% of our students for reading have already hit their typical growth target. That's the median. It's not the average. It's the median number. So the median number was at 95%, which was amazing. We were really excited about that. And then for our iReady Math, the median is at 62. So again, we're halfway there. So we're more than halfway. At halfway point, we would hope we would be at 50. That means we would be on track. So we're exceeding the numbers that we would expect, which we're thrilled about that. And then the number below is just to tell you, again, with this iReady assessment, but it will tell you the comparison. The grade. And what I was really thrilled about was that we seen the growth data to actually completely close, and in some cases kind of flipped the gap. So in 5th grade, students by 8%. One of those kids already met their year-end goal compared to 44. In 5th grade, our Hispanic students closed the gap. So they were neck and neck with non-Hispanic. And in 6th grade, the Hispanic students outperformed non-Hispanic students. And traditionally at Hillside, we were seeing a gap between those 2 groups, which is why I brought those groups up. And then in math, again, similarly, we have some comparison data. We did see that there still is an achievement gap between the economically disadvantaged that still exists, and we saw that for math was in both grades was about 12%. So that means that our Hispanic students are about 12% lower than the non-Hispanic students. So we're going to work on closing that gap. But we did see in 5th grade and in 6th grade, Hispanic students are outperforming. So they have surpassed and closed that gap. So we're thrilled with that. Just wanted to share that with you. I'm Humanities. Okay. No. So humanities at the intermediate level, I think I explained this to you last year as well. We have blocks. So each student is in a humanities class and a STEM class. Ms. Diedelbaum will talk about math in a bit. Humanities is social studies, reading, writing, and it's really a collaborative, inquiry-based approach, very highly engaging. And you can see from some of the pictures, the children really love. There's been new curriculum that is written, new tasks, and they're constantly being revised. So last year we had some tasks that were written, and the children, engaged in those. But the teachers, the coaches, curriculum director, messenger are always reflecting on those and revising those. So this year we have some new tasks, and we're excited to see how those come out as well. We also have book clubs that the kids are really enjoying. We've been very grateful to the board for some of these new novels that are high interest novels by authors that look like our students, with main characters that look like our students, and very motivational. The kids really like the book clubs. And again, I mentioned the updated tasks and then writing assessments. We're focusing on some writing assessments this year, and really having that is a new focus this year that we hadn't focused as much on last year.
So I'll talk about the math. And in grade 5 this year, we are in year 1 of implementation of illustrative math, and we're really appreciative of the board for always supporting that. In both grade 5 and 6, we have newer programs. Grade 6, they're in the second year of the Desmos math. They're very similarly aligned, have a lot of same elements to them. And we really appreciate that because we see a lot of growth already. Even my teachers are reporting that, wow, students really understand this. They're feeling confident about it. So, the students are feeling confident. Sometimes math for some students, the perception could be that, you're a math person or not. And I see in classrooms kids working with fractions and decimals and percents, and nobody's upset, and they're persevering, and they're pushing through, and they're having discussions about it. So that's really makes me really proud, and I'm really grateful for you guys for doing that for us and allowing us to use those programs. I know that it's not easy. We have longer blocks at the intermediate. Every year we've been able to increase a few minutes of their humanities block and their STEM block. So almost 2 hours, nearly 2 hours in each of them every day. So sometimes people hear blocks and they think it's every other day. For the intermediate, they're in them every day. So for math, they would have math from, over an hour, sometimes up to 75 minutes, and then they still have time for their science period in that STEM block. So, that's really helped give teachers time to work with students in small groups and students to be able to do a lot more independent work. And the teachers can see right in that moment in that day if they're understanding the lesson or not. So that's been very helpful. Both programs focus on conceptual understanding, and a lot of manipulatives and hands-on things. You can see some pictures there. Besides just those hands-on things, there's a lot of real-world problems, and I know a lot of math programs say that they do that, but these really do. Everything is grounded in that. They're drawing, pictures and things. They're having to represent things. If they are given an equation, they have to represent it in a real world. They can answer questions in more than one way. It's not, we're not getting rid of algorithms. We're still teaching that to children, but we're showing them where that it came from. So they understand, 2 1/3 divided by 4. They know what's in 2 1/3. How many 1/3 are in each of those 2s? So they can do it in multiple ways. And it's really been amazing to see that transition over the last 2 years.
So that second part of the STEM block that we talked about with math is science, and intermediate students get science every single day. In 5th grade, we have an HMH Science Dimensions is the program that we're using. And in 6th grade, we're really excited because this is the first year that we had Open Syed. And I know that many of you got some hands-on experience, I believe, the curriculum committee. And as you can see, there's some students in the labs. They love it. They absolutely love it. It is hands-on, phenomenon-driven labs where kids are really thinking like scientists. They're thinking critically. They're making those predictions, looking at data and analyzing it. And they they're just thrilled. They're always asking, when can we have, a lab again? So we're thrilled about that. Another thing that is really nice, and it ties in very nicely to something that we do with SEL, which is our circles. They have science circles, and later on you'll hear about some circles that we do for our SEL. So kids are used to being in circles to talk about a variety of things, and we also have science circles where they're able to sit in a circle and just discuss the different components of the science lesson, and to hear the dialogue and the debate that they have, especially after they've had a lab, and you can really see that they are understanding and thinking deeply. It's really exciting. So we're thrilled to have the Open Syed. I want to thank you guys for that, because we know that, I think that was just approved or recommended. Yes, thank you.
So in some of the work that you've seen, the academic scores and how we structure our days, just as important is our professional learning for our staff. We know that they need professional learning on all of the new programs, but as kids change and as the scores come in, they're more than just a number. So some of the things that they've had some professional learning on in large chunks, and then weekly and monthly, are responsive classroom and trauma-based practices, restorative practices. You'll see a lot of morning meetings and teachers engaging with students about expectations and maintaining those. And we understand that, as a tier 1, as a level for every student to get those things is really important. Making sure that our teachers know their students as learners. How do they learn best? Do they learn best with some direct instruction, small group? Do they really love writing on the computer? But we're balancing with that with some journals and some writing in notebooks. So we're really trying to, post-pandemic here, make sure that we're doing all of those things, getting them ready for the real world, but still balancing that with actually reading books, not everything just online. We're continuing with Acceleration PD. This year, the focus was on feedback and formative assessment, which goes along with analyzing student work and how we respond to students' work and sharing that back with them. Progress monitoring regularly with students every week. We're making sure that our tasks are aligned to the competencies, which are standards driven. Updating our social and emotional learning lessons, which are done from each semester to each month to each week, some with our counselors and our social workers and our psychologists, and some with their homeroom teachers. We engage in instructional rounds each year. I had mine. You're having yours soon. So that's a great marker for us when we have others folks come in and get to see what maybe we don't see on our day-to-day. And then, of course, our TVAL and CVAL for teachers, their evaluations, which would be 3 times a year, beginning, middle, and end of year. Oh, this is still me. So going along with that, we know that building a strong culture and climate in our schools is really important, both for our staff and our students. And Jana and I work really closely to try to do that with our staff, making sure we have faculty wellness, that they're being taken care of socially, emotionally as well. A lot of our professional development is focused on a workshop model, what they really need. We try to do a variety. It's not all whole faculty. We do a lot of department meetings, a lot of intentional planning around what staff needs or what we see the students need, and can support them with that. And then we do some networking events, we call them, when we engage. Last year we had some basketball. Hopefully we'll get that in the spring. We had a cornhole event where they got together, and we really mixed it up this year, where 2 Hillside staff were with 2 Cross Street staff, so that we got to, they get to, when you're with them in a less formal setting, it's an opportunity to talk about what kind of things you're doing that are really well, and sharing. And so many teachers came back the next day and were like, oh, did you know they were doing this at Hillside? I'm like, oh, I heard that. Do you want to try that? I think those are some of the best possible things that you can do. And then they're emailing, oh, I did that lesson. Oh, I tried that task. I'm a little bit ahead. So I was really proud of that too.
And then, of course, we need to always, every single day, work on building a positive climate for our students. As we had mentioned, as you know from the district, we're focused on social emotional learning. We're continuing with that. Over the summer and at the end of last year, the district provided quite a bit of professional learning for all of our schools. In the summer, we had responsive classroom, and at the end of last year, we did trauma-informed restorative practices. So we've rolled that out to everyone at both of our schools, and we are implementing those practices. We're continuing, and all of these practices, it's not another thing. They really do align with one another, and they build on. So it's not like another thing. It's more deeper pieces that support and more pieces to the puzzle. So we had ruler initially, we've added the trauma informed, we've added the responsive, and it's really we're seeing some nice results. In every classroom that you go into, you'll see classroom charters, and that really they're important. The kids create those with the teachers, and you'll hear the kids and the teachers referring to those, especially if kids are having a hard time, or maybe they didn't show their best self to a friend or a colleague when they were upset. They'll refer back to the charter and say, is that how we agreed we wanted to behave? What do you think that we could do instead? And they'll refer to that. So we do weekly SEL lessons, monthly heritage focuses, and lots of different celebrations. We do academic celebrations, as well as, just lots of fun activities with the kids. Kindness Week was an example. And there's just some pictures. You see that, which we do not have the dog at Hillside, but I got to get that dog, because every time I hear about the dog, like I need to get the dog at Hillside. But we have our plays and Kindness Week, door decorating. I know that they did at Cross Street, and there's some pictures of some kids with some academic recognition. So
That's it. Any questions? Mayor Hess?
yes and yes. So when you say how do we determine, so that comes from Power School, and it comes on students who would qualify for free and reduced lunch if we were not everybody free and reduced. So that is how that comes up as far as those systems. iReady system is synced in with Power School, so they're able to capture that for us, which is a great feature. And yes, that historically there has been a gap, so we were thrilled when we saw that. And again, this is one measure. There's lots of measures. On this particular measure, which kids took this assessment in the fall, and now they took it again in the winter, the growth that we're seeing, they outperformed. So we were really happy with that. Yes. Yeah, so we do both. We just decided to share this year the interim assessment blocks, the IABs. This year at Hillside, we are using it differently, and that's why I didn't share. Ms. Dielbaum, I believe you guys are using it at the end. The kids learn something in the unit, and then they're taking it. It's very similar to how they would take it on the SBAC, and so she's looking at some predictive value of where the kids are. At Hillside this year, because when we were looking at the especially the IM, the illustrative math in 5th grade, it didn't line up the curriculum as well as the timing. Like, not everything was done in time to take a certain assessment. So we decided that we were going to instead use it as a teaching tool, which is what we did with science. So what we do for these assessment blocks is, say there's 15 questions. The teacher may model 1 or 2 questions with the kids. We may do some guided, and then the last, let's say 4 or 5, they do on their own. So if you were to look at our scores, you couldn't have any real fidelity that they were correct. They probably would be higher, inflated, because we're helping the kids understand what the question looks like and using them more as a teaching tool. We tried that model in science, and we did see some nice growth in our science scores, and kids seemed to find that helpful. So we thought we would try that this year with the IABs. That's why we didn't share the IABs. And
we all do the same. We all have to take the same assessment.
Yeah.
It's just a different focus. So like in my strategic plan, I was focusing on curriculum-based measures. In her strategic plan, she's focusing on the personal competency.
Yeah.
So we all pick.
Yeah.
I would say ours were very similar. If you want to They're all very similar, the similar flows from like a fall to.
Yeah, and this test is adaptive. So that the test that the IABs, which are similar to the Smarter Balance, those are grade level. These tests are adaptive, which means a child may do very well in this test, but it also may be giving them questions that are at fourth grade level and they're in fifth grade. So they may be doing very well in this test. Sometimes we don't. That's why a lot of times we like to look at the growth here. So they're growing. We're a 2-year school. We get them in fifth grade, right? They may be below. We're trying to close that gap, but sometimes they do really well on this, but we might not see those same results or not as predictive because the test that they take at the end of the year is at grade level. So they're going to take a fifth grade level or a sixth grade level test. Hope I didn't confuse you guys with that.
Thank you, Mrs. Gallo. We've worked really hard because of the pandemic. I think it forced everybody. We were, even when we came back, and we were really lucky to be in person, but there was this fear and everyone was all day. We were on the screen. So I would say it's a really good balance. We've worked really hard to do both of that.
Sorry. Any other questions? Thank you both very much. Yeah, you could, yeah.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I have a brief update in regards to the YMCA's child care program. I don't, not that I'm aware of. Yeah. I think we did all 8. It was 8 and 8, 2, 2, 2. No, we had, yeah. I'll defer to the principals. So there's a memo, basically that shares with you some of the steps that the Y now is taking as they near what will hopefully be an opening or a launch at the end of the month. So if all goes well, at the end of the month, they'll have a visit from the Office of Early Childhood, which would finalize their licensure, and then they would begin opening up.
Great, thank you. Ms. Diedelbaum, do we have a recognition? No, okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because we would have taken the time to recognize him, so. Good. Okay. Glad you could join us. Okay, that takes us to our student rep report. Josephine and Ruby. Sorry. Thank you both very much. Very good things to hear going on. So that brings us to our enrollment report. Any questions on the enrollment report? Seeing none, we'll go to the fire drill report. Any questions on the fire drill report? Seeing none, we'll go to the human resources report. Any questions on the HR report? Seeing none, we'll go to the finance report. Any questions on the finance report? Seeing none, we'll go to the facility use report. Any questions on the facility use report? Seeing none, we'll go to the finance committee report. As you'll see, the finance committee met back on January 24th to discuss the 2023-2024 financial plan. And then we'll move on to the policy committee minutes. Policy committee met last Thursday, and we will be discussing those coming up in a few minutes.
And can I just say, even though I took the minutes, I left Diana Malone's name off of the minutes. So her name belongs there. She was virtual.
Good catch. And then we'll go on to the curriculum committee meeting. The curriculum committee met also last Thursday, and we discussed the Open SciEd curriculum, which was hands-on. So some of us got to, put on some science goggles and play with some liquids. It was a good time to experience. Okay, so we have no old business. So that brings us to new business. And our first item is a donation. Okay. So as you see in the memo there from Bernice, De Silva's Auto would like to contribute $1,000 to the Naugatuck High School Black Student Union to help with expenses for a field trip to visit historically Black colleges and universities as a civil rights tour. Could I have a motion to approve the donation received by Naugatuck High School Black Student Union from De Silva's Auto, LLC, in the amount of $1,000 to help with field trip expenses?
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. Grant. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Ms. Makowski. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? That motion passes, and thank you to De Silva's Auto. I'm sure the Black Student Union is very appreciative. So that brings us to BOE Policy 5113, Student Attendance, Truancy, and Chronic Absenteeism, and 5113R, Administrative Regulations. This is a first read, so bring any questions, comments, concerns to the second read next meeting where we vote. And I believe these were all mostly legislative, legal changes, nothing.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, essentially in the first policy, it defines which mental health days, mental health and wellness days, which, as you know, we added based on statute, perhaps a year ago-ish. So it basically defines when they are excused and when they're not, and the fact that they cannot be counted towards truancy, but they do count towards chronic absenteeism. And the other thing that changes in this policy is an update in regards to mandatory training that will take place on July 1st, 2023, in regards to truancy, or no, I stand corrected. That's the next policy. July 1, 2023, and after if a student is truant, a mental health specialist from the school will evaluate to see if there's any other supports that the student may need.
Thank you. That brings us to BOE policy 4600, reports of suspected abuse and neglect of children, and 4600R, administrative regulations. Again, a first read, so any questions, comments, concerns at our next meeting, and I believe the same thing, these are mostly
Yes,
standard
they're very,
legal.
yes, language updating. Two changes really. One, we have to disseminate the policy electronically. And July 1, 2023, we have to provide a training that DCF will develop and provide to us annually. We'll add that to the annual training list that we engage in each year.
Great, thank you. So that brings us to approval of the minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 12th, 2023 regular monthly Board of Education meeting? We have a motion by Ms. O'Donnell. Do we have a second? And a second by Ms. Gallo. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? And any abstentions? That motion passes. That brings us to communications. First is kindergarten registration.
So I have attached the press release for you if you were not able to see that in the paper. Thank you, Ms. Santana, for sharing that. But we are very excited to welcome the class of 2036 for kindergarten registration that will be held the week of March 6th to March 10th in all of our elementary schools.
Great. Thank you. Right? That brings us to the budget development calendar. As you know, we have a budget presentation next Thursday, a board workshop at what time? 6 o'clock?
Yes.
6 o'clock.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
Our budget workshop is at the same time as City Hill's culture fair. And kids went out of their way to invite a few of us, and
Yes.
one of us is the PTO president. It's probably impossible, but is there any way we could do it a little later so that we can get to that and get to this?
Of course.
I'd like
Yes.
that a lot, because I definitely want to go.
What, I got invited to the cultural fair. What time
Yeah.
is it?
6 to 7:45. There's actually, I was going to say it in our next communication
You,
that Ms. Bezos sent it out.
yeah. So you want to start at 8? Whatever you want.
That's fine with me, but that's pretty late for most folks. That's for the whole board.
That's fine with, we could do 7.
Is it an event where, do you know if you're staying the whole time?
They're gonna be like serving food from different cultures. They have groups coming out, like the Portuguese club's gonna come and have dancers, and there's a bagpiper, and it's a whole. The kids all came up with family recipes from their
Yeah.
culture, and it's being made, and
You and I figure it out. and
Yeah.
we'll Get it scheduled.
Yeah, and we'll do it it won't be at 6 then. It'll be, we'll have time to go to this.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
yes. Okay, so then board communications. As we talked about, Ms. Mezzo sent out an email inviting us to the cultural fair at City Hill from 6 to 7:45 on the 16th, so next Thursday. Sounds like it will be a great time, so I encourage everyone to attend. All families throughout the community are also encouraged and invited to attend. Does anyone else have any other board communications?
I just want to thank Francis for sending out all the information from CABE. There's some really interesting webinars and workshops that the board may find quite interesting concerning reading and math and all kinds of things. I'm sure you'll find something that will interest you. And they are also running a workshop for individuals who would like to run for office, whether it's the Board of Ed or on the town council or Burgess, whatever. But they're going to give you some tips on how to do that. But thank you, Francis, for sending out that information.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Santana. Anyone else have any other board communications?
I have the 25th of February, the band is having some production or something to raise a fundraiser for their money to go to the parade in Washington. It's at 325 here at the high school.
And you said that is February 25th?
Yes,
Great.
it's a Saturday.
Okay. Thank you for that.
325.
Great. So next is adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, you may.
We have a motion by Ms. Gallo. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Ms. O'Donnell. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? We're adjourned.